Okay. Just looking, it looks like Jen McGrail is online, so we're live on Bourne TV. Just seeing who are we missing? Looks like we have everyone. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's 8:02. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Wendy, if you'd like to take attendance. It looks like we have the 6 members of the committee on board, so we are set to go.
Yep.
Do we? Yes.
We do. Am I actually supposed to call people's names and make them say aye or something?
No, you do not. You do
Oh,
not.
good, because I've never done that and I don't think it's necessary. Okay.
When you have a hybrid meeting, sometimes it is just so that the people who are in the room know who is actually online, but I don't think we need to do that.
Nope. Okay.
I'm having problems booting.
Only in the event of a vote, we have to do a roll call.
True. Okay, give me 1 minute.
We can see everybody here. All right, you say so. All right, who's here? Yeah. Jed's not here.
Jed is still on vacation. That is, I forgot to mention that. He will be at next week's meeting, and he has been following along to the best that he can, signing into Bourne TV when he has Wi-Fi on the beach, I guess. God bless him.
Grumble, grumble.
Wendy, I did not see the minutes from the meeting on the 25th. Are those done yet?
Yeah, I sent them out.
They went out last night, so
I sent them. Brian said he hadn't seen them, so I sent them out again last night. But if you don't have them, we can put them up here on the screen and just blitz them.
Anne-Marie's got a hard stop at 9:30. What I would like to do is, if you don't mind, I'd like to postpone a review of those for a week. I think we're okay. I'm aware of several other committees that are literally 4 or 5 meetings behind in terms of even reviewing those. So if they start slapping wrists, we're going to be in the back of the line, not towards the front. Is that okay with everyone?
Just given a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks, we might want to prioritize this a little more, in my opinion.
Okay, let's plan on a comprehensive review next week. Okay, is there any public correspondence? Anne-Marie is the town clerk, or I guess the administrator's office seen any?
I haven't gotten anything either.
Okay, that's good. For some reason, my video has gone into driving mode, so it won't let me put the video on. So you can't stare at my face this morning. So if anybody complains, let me know. Okay, I'm going to move forward. The big item that we have to do today is review the select board presentation and the quarterly report. And the schedule right now is, at least tentatively, we are on the agenda for the select board meeting on the 13th. Okay. And I really would like to get at least a review copy to all the members of the select board, with perhaps a little bit of editorial and stylistic cleanup, get it to them tomorrow, so that they have a full week to look at it beforehand, and perhaps can submit to maybe informally just questions back to, maybe use Anne-Marie as a conduit to get back to us, so we could make any corrections before it goes live on a week from tomorrow on the select board agenda. Is that okay with everybody?
That's 2 weeks, more than 1 week, but sure, whatever they need.
Well, let's see.
It's nice to have that. It's nice to have the information ahead of time for the select board to read it and be prepared for, that discussion come February 13th.
To go through something as complex and go over as much as we've done, frankly, over a weekend, which is, I presume, how when most of the the review work gets done. Is
So
just
our packets come out on Fridays for the following Tuesday.
right.
But if we get this in, you can, maybe request when you submit it to send it to the full board. Or Bob, yeah. So when you submit it to the TA's office and to Mary Jane, I would request that it be sent out in ample time to for the select board to have ample time to review it, because it is very involved.
Well, I would like to just get feedback from Mary Jane as soon as possible, in terms of length, in terms of amount of information, etc. And send it to the full board or submit it through Marlene's office, but get her feedback so that if she needs corrections, she wants it cut down, she sees things that perhaps aren't clear, she can get that back to us, and we can make last minute corrections next Thursday. I don't know if that's a proper way to do it, but
that's kind of Mary Jane's call with respects to time on agenda items. But yeah, I mean, if it goes over, it's kind of a standing procedure that any type of presentation usually runs around 15 minutes. That's the expectation. If it goes beyond that, it goes beyond that, because the discussion is important and we want to have that discussion. But I would plan on at least 15 minutes.
Okay. Well,
but yeah, Mary Jane, she'll give good feedback with respects to timing and looking at the document.
Right. Okay. Well, what's everybody's pleasure? Shall we go through the PowerPoint first or the report first, since it sort of joined together? Any comments?
I've looked at it already and I think it looks good.
Unmute, John.
John, we can't hear you.
Unmute. Unmute.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I thought that I thought the first presentation you did, version 1, was a little more to the point. I'm afraid that in the second presentation you are trying to cover everything, and I think you're going to lose people. I think they're gonna. I'm not sure it's necessary to prove to them that we have, followed the letter of the charge, as much as here's what we're facing, here's what we found out, here's what we recommend that you think about. I just, when you get into, we're going down a pretty complex road here, and I don't think that it doesn't ring true to me. I think you just have to lay out a clear roadmap to say, here's the current situation, here are the choices that we face, and here's how each one of them could evolve. For instance, if we can point out that there's cable, that there's fiber, and that there's also fixed wireless access. These are the 3 ways that people get internet. Non-technical people can get that. And then you point out, okay, well, these are the choices right now. If you want to go fixed wireless right now, it's T-Mobile. If you want to go fiber right now, there's nothing, but we know Verizon is putting in some limited stuff. If you want to go with cable, you've got Comcast, but they don't have good quality service to everybody. And then point out that the other avenue that we are investigating in parallel, as Tony pointed out, is something that we should do, is the municipal option, and say, okay, these first 3 options aren't going to cost the town anything, but here could be the downside. The 4th option is we look into a municipal possibility, a municipal light plant. And Brian has sent along a couple of really excellent things. The article by Sean Gonzalez, which just in a few sentences ties it up beautifully. And that, I forget the company that you sent the video from, Brian, that put in an entire like 10 gigabit system in a town.
Utopia is one of them. There's a lot of towns out there.
I would love it if the select board could see that. You see that, and your eyes are opened up. You go, wow, look at the results. Wow, look at how inexpensive it is. And wow, look at the quality of service that you get. So that the board has a clear idea of what the choices are. Because I think right now we're spending a lot of time just saying, well, we followed all these points and here's all the details. I don't think they care about the details. I think that they want to get the big picture. That's Anne Marie can chip in here because obviously she has better knowledge of what they want than I do. But I read it and just I was lost in all the words.
Anne Marie, we can't hear you.
Sorry. At the end of the day, less is best. I agree with John. And if we get too technical, we're going to lose a lot of people, including, select board. The primary focus should be about how's this benefit the community? What are we facing as taxpayers, as citizens, as, users in our community? I think a priority in the presentation should be the level of frustration and the lack of access that really truly exists in the community, and what the steps are that we're taking to try to improve that. And yeah, I think the select board should get the full report with all this language in it. But for presentation purposes, I think the path should be based on what the community is facing.
Yeah, I think you could probably summarize those points very briefly without going into detail. And that you list them on your slide, but you don't have to in open meeting spend a lot of time describing all of them. But I think we do need to put them on notice that last option is a very realistic option for us to pursue.
Well, I mean, okay. I know that you talked about misinformation, and Wendy, to your point, I saw your Bourne posting through my wife on Facebook, where there is some guy claiming that FWA is coming and that Verizon is putting up 2 towers in Bourne.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I hadn't seen anything about that.
No kidding.
Where? The guy was making a tower.
Not in my yard. I couldn't even get a damn windmill put up in my own yard.
Well, exactly. I mean, you have to go through kind of a major permitting process to put up a tower. And for instance,
I think we might need to take a step back here, and I think Anne Marie and John is hitting the nail on the head. We might be lost in the weeds, and we need to take one giant leap back and look at it from a zero technical whatsoever perspective. It's like, this is what's going on. This is what we have. This is why that's bad. Here is the ways forward.
Yeah, and I would even try to see if there's some way we can, Brian, get to the select board that wonderful Utopia, because that is one convincing video. You read that.
There's some great videos, yeah. Like it explains it faster than any amount of words. Like the video from there's two ways it's done. Utopia has a really cool video of how their network runs, and then Ammon, Iowa, they have the public safety aspect of a town-owned one where they had active shooter drills, and they could basically auto-deploy the police in seconds because of how fast and good quality the network is. And so both have put out interesting videos, and the FCC often cites these two as the best networks in the whole country.
Could you send me those links and I can get them posted on the Facebook thing so other people can see them?
Yeah, I'll find them for you. What was that, Anne-Marie?
My recommendation for that, to get that outreach, would be to whether we provide it as a link in the presentation or whether we provide it as an attachment. My suggestion would be to send that to all select board from the CTAC, send it to all select board and the TA from the CTAC, so it becomes public correspondence. And then it becomes part of the select board's public correspondence, and that will further, expand that outreach.
Okay.
For that knowledge, right?
For timing, so then basically delegate to me to locate the links and forward them to Bob to send to the select board.
Yeah, whoever. Yeah, Bob. Just if you have one email that has those links, Bob can forward it to all select board. and recommend that this be part of public correspondence.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll try to find the short ones,
that's another good avenue, because as I read public correspondence as well, and as I give a committee report, I can emphasize that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go through, because they have like the 2-hour version, which will lose everybody, but they have some good like 5, 10, 15-minute cut ones that are just like boom, boom, boom. And so I'll find those.
Yeah, the Utopia one you sent me was such a great sell job, because it said, oh, well, here's this term we use about fiber hut. What does it mean? Well, we'll show you. And
yeah, it was pretty cool. They're like, this is a fiber hut. Come on in. And they show them. It was pretty cute how they did the Utopia one.
And in like 3 minutes, you could be a non-technical person and you get it. You go, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, here's this $1 million rack of equipment. He's like, literally, this glass reaches your house, and I'm plugging it in here. Like that's how complicated this is.
And there you are. Your neighborhood is lit up. We're good. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a good idea. We can probably attach that that email with live links as an appendix to the report. And I'll get that email out tomorrow if you send me those links. So that can go out. It'll go into public correspondence if I get it out to, I guess if I get it out today or tomorrow, it will go in correspondence for Tuesday's meeting, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, she will locate them. They're probably an email between you and me at various points, so I'll find them.
And that will be prepped for moving forward on that. Okay. With regard to I think the bulk of the report with all that information, that should stay in some form as documentation of what we've done.
Yes.
But I like John's idea. John, if you want to just jot me down some notes on that. So I guess when it's certainly not going to get done today, what I will do is rejigger the PowerPoint so that it makes those points. I want to the timeline that's down in slide it's probably down in slide 12 if everybody saw that. I'd like to leave that in there and just point that there's time critical decision points that are coming up that would have to be done. Anne-Marie, can I share screen here? Can you give me power to share screen?
I did already.
Okay, you know what?
And I think the second piece of the presentation too, I still think it's important to if we take the angle from the community perspective and the impacts on the community, but at the same time, identify it with some of the charges, right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of how to, on a slide, annotate that. And I think we can do that in parentheticals at the end of each one.
Yeah, and you might, and maybe one of the things we do is just condense some of the slides about the charges to maybe just a couple slides with identifying the charge and the work we've done related to that charge. But I think early in the presentation, we should talk about the obstacles and struggles that the community is facing with respects to our broadband service. I think it's
going to be very important to include things attached to the language of our charge as much as possible, because if there's any kind of questions about whether we're doing what we're supposed to be doing or exceeding our remit or anything like that, that's got to get put down right away.
Well, can that be in the report?
I think only one introductory slide of that community piece is plenty. If we start off with the reason why this committee was formed was because this is what our community is facing. And then the other subsequent slides dive into a little bit of like what the charge is and where we're at with those charges. And it might not be a slide. It might just be part of, Bob's introduction.
Again, if the report gets attached as part of the packet, anybody can read that, and the select board will have read that beforehand, and I can just put the list of charges up there. and point out that we have done something under absolutely every single one of these And when we get down to our recommendations, where the landscape is right now in terms of funding, et cetera, broadly, and what our recommendations are under that, they all fall under the charge, to make it clear that we're not getting off the reservation, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good format. That's a good timeline or a good
plan.
So
process.
I can with a couple of dense slides like the one with recommendations at the end, I can probably get this down to 6 or 8 slides. And we'll spend a lot of time looking at some of these. I'm not going to put this up right now. Part of the by the way, I'm on my my cell to get so you have better audio, and I don't have my my laptop hooked up to the whatever, so we can't live edit it until I sign on again on another through another entry. But
we trust you.
Well, okay, we'll get there. A couple of I won't call them issues have come up, but it's become obvious that somebody who ought to be included in any of the discussions on a way forward is the assistant administrator, who basically is administering the Cape Cod Commission's contract on digital equity planning. And since from what we have heard, or Brian has heard, and going to the to MBI's public meeting up in Boston, digital equity planning is going to be the centerpiece of how MBI is going to be distributing funds. Is that right, Brian?
Brian, you're muted. Brian, you're muted.
Brian, you're muted.
Yeah, MBI prioritizes digital equity over network building, which is ironic because having a stable network is part of digital equity, but I digress. Yeah, so everything, the primary focus of all grant funding will be from the digital equity lens. So it will be critical to be thinking from that perspective in any requests for money to MBI.
Yeah, and I'm saying the secondhand, but clearly unserved and underserved areas is one element of digital equity. Brian, you mentioned one other element that MBI brought up, is that libraries in some of the 60 towns that are doing these digital equity studies have expressed an interest in the need to have loaner Chromebooks funded.
So the libraries were as an interesting comment from several towns, several of the consultants, and MBI, because libraries typically are one of the places that already were doing digital equity before it had a name, since they're often well funded. They often already have their own building, so they're finding the libraries are going to be like a cornerstone institution to a lot of towns that might not already have a sophisticated digital equity program. So taking into account the libraries is going to be a recurring theme in many towns. And Cape Cod Commission has mentioned various towns they work with. The libraries are pretty strong as far as digital equity. And so, yeah, considering they said, if you find something that works with digital equity, try to double down on it, because if you got a working anything, stick with it. And so coordinating with the libraries and their needs will also be very helpful as far as any future digital equity plans.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I think, Bob, if I may.
Yes, please.
I think an important piece of this too is that as we move forward, and at one point, we had this conversation early on that the digital equity grant that exists now, there was going to be some overlap, and it's interesting that this is the direction that MBI is taking. So I think it's important for us as a committee to have a liaison, or to have someone from this committee represented when that plan comes out, and the implementation strategies and what priorities are in that decision making. I think it's important. Obviously it'll come to select board, so I will have the heads up. But I think another individual and the recommendation that we should make to the select board would be to have maybe representation from this committee in that implementation process once that report comes out. I think that's an important voice to have for this committee.
It makes sense given the priorities being digital equity, and if we're going to scrounge around for money to do any of this, probably need to be more in part of this conversation for sure.
And that is definitely part of our charge, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
And
that way we connect all the dots, right? Because if MBI is involved, if Cape Cod Commission's involved, if we've got the town administrative office involved, and now we have, a representation from this committee, now we've connected that circle of communication and building that process.
Yeah, and I think we ought to add the library to that too. We can go either through their trustees or go directly to library staff. The trustees just completed a strategic plan for the library, so I can contact either Tina Produce or Kathy Alfano, or I'm trying to remember some of the other folks who were in that strategic planning process. And
Liz
by the way,
was as well.
Liz
the
was the lead on that too.
Administrator spearheaded that process.
Exactly.
With
Okay, so clearly, it seems like another working group, a side working group, should be put together with one or two representatives from this committee. Certainly, when the commission comes out with their draft plan, we ought to see it. I'm looking at the recommendations that we have in the last couple of slides, and the first recommendation for both SciTac and the select board is consider and follow the recommendations of the Cape Cod Commission Digital Equity Planning Study. Well, that's great. We don't know what those are. Okay, we don't know what's on paper yet. And I asked Liz a week or more ago if she could find out exactly when they plan to deliver that. Go ahead.
Also, the MBI was the thing they made most explicit, and it's important to reiterate it, is for their next grant, for digital equity, they have a $100,000 implementation grant. The strategy has to be outlined in the report. So even if the report's not published, we should probably get this working group together to make sure something isn't missed in the final draft that could very easily been reworded to work better for future funding.
Brian, did you get a sense of how many towns have completed their digital equity studies versus how many are just, like us, have one in progress?
We're among some. So, but we're the first on the Cape for sure, and the sense I got is the other towns that were really on top of it are about to have the report or just had it come out. So, we're ahead of the curve, I guess, overall statewide.
Well, again, we're only going to get an interim report here. The final report isn't due, I think Liz said from the statement of work, until May sometime, which might be too late for these $100,000 grants. I hope it's not. But, clearly, if we have an interim that's out there to the select board and us and whomever, the public, for comment, that is enough to work from.
So the other comment MBI made is they want to be seen less as this pie in the sky, untouchable institution, and to engage them more when we see issues with any of their grant language, so to speak. So to set up conversations and clarify things, because they said they're talking about putting in another category for extra things. So they are at least ostensibly asking for more engagement and with more specific requests, and to possibly edit rules to fit these things. So it sounds like a lot more work for us, but they're trying to, it sounds like they're attempting to be more understanding that there's no one size fits all.
Okay, can I'm going to request that, Brian, you serve as kind of a a clerk for a parking lot list of issues that we as a committee should bring forward to MBI for clarification or adjustment in terms of their process, just generally, okay, not just with regard to digital equity. And we're going to have to probably hold in abeyance any detailed comments on digital equity implementation until we see the Cape Cod Commission report or a draft of it. Does that sound like a?
So the problem with MBI always ends up being the timing. Like often when you can make the changes that are helpful to you, there's usually a limited window. So we might have to get a little creative with the interim report, and maybe we make the discussion more theoretical with MBI. If the report would contain X and they wanted to do Y based on the digital equity report, would you fund it? Or would you approve such a thing? Or can the rules be adjusted so that if this comes about, it would be approvable?
Well, I think the crucial thing, what I would propose, I don't think this needs a formal vote, but is everybody in favor of establishing kind of a side working group, probably with Liz as the convener, that's got a couple of people from us, maybe somebody from the library, to essentially be prepared to review quickly the digital equity planning study, and then identify ways forward that we can go from that once we get an idea of what's in that. Does that seem
Bob,
like
I think that should be part of the recommendation when you present.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But I'm going to broach
so
that
the
to
full
Liz
select
first.
board can hear that, and
Yeah, and I'll just tell Liz that that's one of the recommendations that came up this morning, and I'll communicate that to her today and see if she's amenable to that. Okay, because we're going to need to jump on whatever the recommendations are, as Brian said, relatively quickly. Some of the windows that MBI is proposing are awfully narrow, and there's a 2-week cycle before we can get select board approval to do a lot of big formal things, and some of those are may not even be enough time. I'm just afraid that
May won't be enough time to get a speed test funding proposal done and approved and online for the June timeline. So like there's no way to wait for the final report to be doing this. We're going to have to be working off the interim or informal recommendations.
Okay. Is everybody still convinced that that better speed testing is something that is really necessary, both not just for digital equity, but for any indication to the select board that the service is just not good in Bourne? I mean, that's the
because we're up against this FCC thing, which is basically they just took Comcast's word for it, and it just says, Brian pointed out that Comcast recently had their hands slapped for making their 10G claims, which was pretty funny. But it's basically a lot of these companies, or particularly Comcast, there's a strong marketing push that's involved here, and not necessarily a lot of reality. So we need to inject some reality, and the fact is that the only way we're going to get any funding is to prove that in fact we have these areas that are deprived of reasonable internet accessibility, and reliability is really the important thing here. Sometimes they'll claim they have access, but they won't tell you how well it works, as has been witnessed by many of the members of this committee. So we absolutely have to have it. There's no question, and that's a question we're going to have to pose to them to say, look, for us to enable this testing, it's going to take a little bit of money. It doesn't come for free. We don't have the tools or the staff to do it. We have to hire, pay for the software and put the stuff in the Chromebooks, and maybe bring in a consultant to be able to handle it.
Okay.
I think the emphasis, we've had a lot of emphasis on speed test. And a lot of people have the argument that, well, my speed is fine. I think the focus, not just about the speed, but as you hit upon, John, it's about the quality of the speed. That's where the rubber meets the road, right? And while we all have, not all, I shouldn't say that. Well, a lot of people have good speed and don't complain about it. The complaints, even with the good speed, are about the quality, right?
And the cost.
I can upload, I mean, I don't have issues with speed in my house, but it goes down. The quality of that speed, who cares about the speed?
Well,
I agree with you there, because the quality issue is harder to quantify, and the grant rules are much more difficult to work with around that. So that's why we need really good help to, we all colloquially and anecdotally know how bad it is, but to prove it in a way that is, data backed is a much more difficult task. You can't just take the 1,000 comments on Facebook and send that to MBI, and they're like, so what? We need real hard data, and like,
correct.
If the
we
speed
have to
was always
quantify it.
bad, it would be so easy because everyone just do a little Ookla speed test and we'd be done. But it's a reliability issue. And as Wendy said, we pay double the cost of anywhere else in the state.
The cost is huge. My brother is in Mo Beach and he gets 1 gig service, but it costs him $250 a month, and it's not even 1 gig most of the time.
Yeah. So the MBI's own data says the Cape is double that of Boston. So even if you are the person who's right next to the node and has a reliable connection and says, I don't see why anyone has a problem, you're still paying double. So we're all paying for this bad service, either one way or another.
And it should be pointed out right out in the presentation. That's one thing you put right up front. Not only are we having, are we underserved, but we're overpaying and underserved. And it's the same thing. I have pretty good speed, but I have to tell you that it just every now and then something weird just happens and it goes away. And I was streaming something the other night, and it's like, all of a sudden you get the circle of death, and it's like, well, what's going on? Well, I know what's going on. I mean, it just is what it is, and it's because of the fact that they can get away with it because there's no competition.
But I think also we should, whatever documentation we can provide to support our claims, we should do that, whether it's speed tests or even the cost information, because I question whether or not our costs are truly double other areas of the state. I think actually mine are pretty reasonable. So I think it'd be helpful to compare what we pay as, compared to other areas of the state as well.
Well, I mean, in absolute terms, I'm only paying about $25 a month for my alleged broadband service, but that's because they give me credits for 6 months out of the year when I got nothing. So, that's not too helpful.
I'm $279 a month for the triple play package. Okay, and I asked for a breakdown of that one time, and they said, well, you can do it individually, and it ended up to be $300 a month when they did it a la carte.
But if we run fiber, we're not going to be offering cable service, so you have to strip that out. It's got to be an
exactly.
I've got an internet connection I pay $80 a month for. That's very reliable, and I have no issues with it. So I think we really need to get the data to support what our claims are.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't have access to that. If anybody has a good access to what the internet charges are around, anywhere around the state, that would be good. But I don't want to get up and make claims. I can tell what my costs are for the Verizon package, not Verizon. I'm sorry, the Xfinity package. But I think just the lack of quality of the service. And if we get comments, by the way, about what's the name of the group, Mass Priorities, saying that, the free market should be allowed to should be allowed to reign here as opposed to a government-run system. The one point I want to make is that if we were to have a, kind of an agnostic company that ran the hardware, ran the system, and we had were able to get rent dark fiber, as it's called, up to the internet hotel up in Boston. anybody in Bourne would have a choice of 60 different ISPs. They could get service from 60 different companies that could package various things various ways. And that would truly be the free market. And that would be the, in my point of view, that would be the ideal.
Natural monopoly goods are the exception to free market economics. So
right.
This would be a natural monopoly good.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna. What I want to do is close this for the time being. I'm gonna make a. I'm gonna connect with Liz and get her at least general ideas on approval about a work group to look at the output of the digital equity study. I'll ask her to get a date for that. By the way, if it looks like the date is imminent on this, and we might need to review the report, in the next couple of weeks, do you think it'd be worthwhile to postpone the select board presentation if in fact we can review and comment and provide a way forward for all of the for whatever the digital equity study plan is, or should we just go ahead?
If we delay things every time something new comes up that we ought to pay attention to, we'll never give a report. Things are happening all the time. I think what you can say is, when you get down to the bottom of things that are time critical, you can say that, we're going to look at this, we're going to look at their interim report, not wait for their final report because the timelines are too short. And the other question I have is, for this working group to review all this stuff, is it necessary to have the assistant town administrator part of that group and control when it meets and acts? I'm not sure that we can't do a lot of that and then report it out.
That's what I'm suggesting. That's what I'm suggesting. The recommendation should be such that, we have a voice in the digital equity grant process once the report comes out. So it'll come to us anyway. It will come to the full committee once the report is out. So then, at that time, then we have a point person from this committee, in connection with Liz to coordinate what that implementation and strategy in response to what the recommendations are from the Cape Cod Commission.
I think Liz is the contract officer for that, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So presumably the contractor, the commission, is going to send a draft report back to her. What I'd like to do is get access to that, to look at it at the earliest possible date after she reviews it for compliance with the terms and conditions of the contract, with the scope of work of the contract. Then after that, the implications beyond that are all much more technical implementation and long-term strategy, and that's where we need to come in.
Yeah, once it comes out, it will come to this committee.
Yeah, the full report or the interim report?
The interim report the Cape Cod Commission is supposed to have shortly will come to this committee for comment and suggestions.
Okay. Well, I'll just get up there. If we don't have it by the 13th, I'll get up and say, look, this is expected imminently, and once we get a look at that, that has implications for grants, for a lot of other activities, and we will be right back up here in front of the select board with recommendations, modified recommendations based on that. So I think we just point out that we're going to have a working group in place. We expect, from what we've heard statewide, that involving the libraries with what are they called? Anchor institutions, Brian? In the we can't hear you.
You're
Brian,
muted. You're muted, Brian.
You're muted.
Yeah, libraries are anchor institutions. Also, prisons apparently are anchor institutions. So we should take a look at the prison, the county prison in Bourne, because there's a pot of money for anchors.
Anne Marie, do we have a liaison with the sheriff's office with regard to the prison or anything?
We don't have a liaison, but I have a contact. I'll reach out.
Okay. If we had a point of contact there, we'd be glad to involve them. I mean, clearly education is the
I can ask. I can ask. I know who I can ask to possibly make that connection.
Also, base housing apparently is free game. We always kind of ignored the base, but it's not ignored under the grants. And so we might want to get a base contact, because between the pool of money for migrants, the pool of money for their staff, and that they own it, that there's some interesting options over there as well. So if we can eventually figure out who the point of contact of the base is, we should probably at least consider them in the plan, because they apparently have huge issues with internet there, especially with a huge transient population. So,
and the select board, Melissa Ferretti, she's our point of contact and liaison to anything going on at Joint Base Cape Cod.
okay.
probably worth talking to him, or at least at some point bringing him into the conversation, because there's some pots of money with all the governors setting up migrants there, and the base's own money and housing issues. So.
Okay. Again, so this is going to be kind of an informal working group that's aimed at the clients for the different constituencies and clients that have digital equity needs. Certainly there's going to be outreach through the Council on Aging, and we've already got contacts there. So we've the commission has already talked to them. I was there when they basically contacted a number of their breakfast clients. So there's certainly going to be some recommendations there. I just want to make sure that we've covered a number of the bases very quickly. We can go from there. Okay. Well, again, I'll contact Liz and see if she's amenable to joining this working group once this report comes out, and just to think of the other constituencies, as many as possible, so we have people sitting at the table or on the Zoom call, and can quickly get back to the select board with firm recommendations, especially if we have to go for grant money. Okay, I'm going to bring this to a close. I will have another draft of a presentation sent out to review on Monday morning. Some of the material that's going to be in the presentation will then go to the front of the report. I'm going to presume that if you have any comments on the report as written, such as it's written, send them on to me. We'll get them to the front. Just a question, in terms of a little working group, we've had Tony and Wendy, who've helped out on this before. Let's see, we can't do a quorum here. Do you guys want to continue? Does one of you want to drop out? John had some really good ideas. I think we can, I need other people to look at this once I come up with a revised version.
Yeah, if John wants to take my place, that's fine.
Johnny, you want me to?
Yeah, I'm working on some kind of a little bit of time limitations now. I have some recommendations I can email to you, Bob, and look at it. I'm not sure that I can, devote a ton of time to it. It depends. They've got my wife has got some health issues I'm dealing with at the moment. I got to drive up to Boston today with her, so I will do what I can. But I'm going to send you some stuff. I have some ideas for part of the presentation. I mean, I thought everything that was in there was fine, but most of it should be, the detailed stuff should be in the report, like, how we addressed the issue with Comcast and Bourne Educational Television, and how we addressed, assigning funding to Verizon and Comcast. And then keep the slide presentation more to the point of what Anne Marie said about, we have a problem here, and these are the recommendations we have to investigate the problem and solve the problem.
Okay, if you can send me those recommendations, and I'm going to keep Wendy and Tony on board to help do early reviews of this when I probably by Monday morning. Maybe we have after I get this out over the weekend, let me know whether Oh, excuse me. I'm got a cold coming on here. Give me some early feedback, and then we can get it to the full committee and then review it next Thursday. Sound like a way forward?
Sure, I'm fine
Sounds
with that.
good.
And actually, even if you don't have me on whatever subgroups or working groups you have, I'm very happy to review anybody's written output and tighten it up a little bit. I'm pretty decent at that.
Very good. Okay. I'm going to bring item 4A to a close then, and I'm going to move forward to Brian. Anything new from the Technology Council?
Oh yeah, they completed their own letter to MBI. With concerns about speed testing, the 80-20 rule, and the lack of support to Cape Towns when MBI could very easily handle the speed testing.
Okay. And was that?
I'll send out the finalized one shortly. I think I've seen the last draft approved by the board. There's some questions about some typos or whatnot. So once they publish it, we'll circulate it.
Okay. Very good. Let's see. Technology Council. Let me see. Next is anything going on? Anybody heard from Falmouth, for instance, Wendy, in terms of activity in other towns?
I would love to be able to tell you what they're discussing at their meetings, but everything they post as an agenda goes into executive session. They are keeping it real close to their vest now. Everything.
Okay.
I have no idea why.
I can guess why.
Well, we can guess why, but
right.
you know.
I'm thinking that this government group, this group that's been posting all this stuff about government shouldn't be involved with this, and the amount of funding they're talking about, they probably don't want to leave themselves open for criticism until they have a completed product ready for presentation.
Okay. And they're also reviewing contracts or proposed contracts with other entities, as far as I can see,
Yes,
as well as reviewing resumes for an executive director. And so that's all HR stuff, which would always be in closed session.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. And Jed isn't on board to talk about the other towns, so we'll move forward. The Broadband Coalition. Again, this kind of merges with the next one and meetings with Gigi Sohn. The Broadband Coalition is going to hold a meeting probably the morning of the 14th in someplace like either Fairhaven, New Bedford, or Dartmouth. And they've invited all comers, any representatives of any of these committees to come. I'm going to propose to go only if somebody else can, once we have a schedule, can go to the meeting in Hyannis. And there will be a couple of other meetings with Gigi Sohn in various places. I'm
going to the Falmouth one, which is the same time as the select board meeting.
Right. Okay. I have no other updates on that.
I was planning to go to the other ones besides the one during the select board meeting. So the Southeastern Mass one, and there's one in Falmouth, and there's three: the Falmouth one, the Southeastern Mass, and Hyannis. So I was just going to go to the one that wasn't during the select board.
Right. Okay.
That would be Hyannis, I think.
And I don't have any further information that Bob Espindola has been putting together an agenda of questions, and he is going to circulate that. I was hoping to have that today. Essentially, discussion topics with Ms. Sohn. Once I have that, I'll put that on the agenda for next week. I'm going to leave this on the agenda. Okay, Wendy, do you have? I'm going to move on and talk about item F, media outreach. Have you put together an article to go in the
Enterprise?
The Enterprise.
When I look back at my notes from the last meeting, the only thing that I got from this committee about what to write about was the fact that we're looking for somebody to replace Catherine's spot on the committee. And so that's already in the minutes and everywhere else. So I just wrote up a real brief thing that says we're looking for somebody like this with anybody's welcome to apply, and this is where you do that. And we're looking especially for people with grants or contracting experience or expertise, but anybody's welcome to apply. And so I already sent that out. You know, that there's nothing too controversial there. And I've been asking, you know, is there anything else that you want written into some sort of article? And I didn't get any other input. So
yeah.
What else do you want?
Well, telling them that we're working on a report and presentation, I don't think is especially useful. That's all going to get picked up by Michael Rausch when he actually reports on our report and presentation. So, so I don't think we need to do anything. When the digital equity interim report comes out, to the extent that it can be a public document, I think we ought to let people know, you know, what the gist of their recommendations are, their findings and recommendations, and that ought to go in the enterprise.
Yep, certainly I can do that.
Right.
Oh, I did, just because I can, I sent the approved minutes to Callie also. And I know she would much prefer to have something, you know, camera ready or just ready to go, but I figured she might at least know what we're up to. And because I don't think that, you know, obviously Michael Rausch hasn't been attending our meetings, and, you know, that would be useful for her to know what we're at least looking at.
Well, he watches the YouTube videos. I know that. And
okay.
For instance, you know, with regard to the opening, you know, when we mentioned that at a meeting, you know, he wanted to know basically what the opening was, et cetera. And at that point, for more than a week after that, we hadn't received, or the clerk had not received the resignation, so it wasn't really public information. We probably should not have mentioned that in the meeting itself, but we did. And by the time that resignation letter went in, he had already missed the deadline for his deadline, at least
for
to the
for that week. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And so, but it's in there now, and it'll be up, probably should be up to tomorrow.
Okay. Very good. Okay. In terms of speed test updates, first of all, the one big piece of information in terms of requesting speed data is I got a response back from the public access officer in MBI from our formal request, and I sent everybody all of the information. That came last night, and I have not had a chance to even look it over. I'm going to put that on the agenda for next week to review that information. In terms of, and I have not requested the CostQuest license yet. I've had 4 other correspondences with Marlene on various things. She's got something else that we posted for next week's meeting. There'll be one of the letters is up for approval, and I've had 5 other items before her on stuff not related to internet. So I didn't want to overload her. I will, in fact, get that out. I'll probably get that out tomorrow.
Oh, I do have one thing on speed testing. Probably should have also speed testing, and it falls as well under the Tech Council, and contact with the Broadband Coalition. So do we want to address another letter under the Broadband Coalition item, or you want to do it under speed testing?
You mean just clarify that, Brian? I'm a little confused in exactly what
sorry.
that consists of.
So the the Tech Council did their letter, and now the Broadband Coalition wants to send their own letter about speed testing, and we may want to ghostwrite it so that their interests and ours align.
Well, I think we ought to at least review it if they're going to send that out to make sure that our points are included in that.
I would go as far as ghostwriting it because they are attempting to propose MBI change the window to outside of the summer, which would harm us. Whereas if we help them ghostwrite it, we can just propose a wider window, which that would be good for everybody as opposed to their proposal.
Well, I can do that verbally. I'm reluctant to actually put stuff down on paper from us to them for them to put their imprimatur on it and send off without that going through the select board.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
Talking to them, I think, is much more productive necessarily than trying to write stuff back and forth for them. Bob Espindola is very savvy. He knows he seems to know how to contact people and write things and get points across. And if we're going to participate, I think if we show up on the calls, he's going to pay attention to us. And it's still a very informal organization. They don't have any charter. They don't have any formal list of members or people who are just listening in, et cetera. So, they're clearly trying to solicit more towns to participate. So clearly they want to cover all the bases. Okay.
Can I go back to this? Just one thing here. We talked about about stuff that Wendy was preparing. I don't know if you saw it, Wendy, but it wasn't last week's, but 2 weeks ago, Enterprise had a whole article about the mass broadband and the $20 million grant program. On the front page, there was an article by Alex McGurl, I've never seen before. Did you see that, Wendy?
I did not, no.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can see if I can find a way to send it.
I have a digital subscription, and I didn't get a chance to look at it that week, but I can go and check it.
Yeah, it's the January 19th that I saw it, and when I first saw the article, I thought, "Oh, Wendy probably sent this in," and then I realized it was not. It was about the $20 million grants, and
can you send out a copy? I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I will make a copy of that and see if I can do that. Yeah, no problem. All right, I'll see what I can do. And
cool beans. Well, I know that Callie says I think we lit a fire underneath her. She's really into this, and she wants to keep attention on it, and I'm all for that. So if she wants to bring in other people besides us, that broadens the appeal, and it makes more people understand that more folks are looking at it.
Remember, the enterprise companies are 4 papers with 4 different editors, and each with their own crew of reporters, et cetera. So that could have been one of the other towns. That could have been.
It has to do with the gap, that we talked about, and Verizon and Comcast and everyone else. But I mean, if you want to mention something in whatever you put out, Wendy, that we got actively involved with that.
Yes.
With reviewing that and making recommendations to the Board of Selectmen the Select Board rather for letters, because I was surprised that they covered it and it was front page.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't provide any specific reference at all to us or any of the other committees, but just
it did not. Yeah. It talked in general about MBI and deadline of April 17th. Everything that we were kind of aware of, and it was all about the how Verizon and Comcast were trying to grab onto the funding.
Yep.
Yeah, we might need to circle back with MBI on the gap one again, because they were shell shocked when I said that the waiver language included requiring that you already had debt related to internet broadband debt. So we might want to circle back.
That was in there.
Deer in headlights was the way I described it when I started asking about it. So they might not know.
And the other thing that I meant to mention, I don't know I was not one of these early adopters on Facebook. I didn't start doing Facebook until I retired because I didn't want some smart-ass lawyer looking me up on Facebook when I had to go to deposition and for one of my business things. And so I'm a relative newcomer to that, but I've noticed that I keep posting stuff as a private citizen, not as a CTAC member, but I keep posting stuff on the Bourne list about internet stuff and this and that, and I frequently copy and paste Doug Dawson's column when they're not mega technical, but they speak to sort of the general audience. And I've started to get more and more engagement on those. You know, I used to get like nobody commenting on them, but now more people seem to be looking. And if you do the same sort of algorithm that for every one person that responds, probably 5 to 10 have read it and just, you know, are too lazy to respond or have nothing else to say, I think we're really increasing our reach. And more people are paying attention to these issues. I'm going to put up the link to this Utopia video, which I think some people will go and look at that. Right. And that's a good way to introduce this whole topic more broadly.
Yeah, I know from my wife who monitors and stuff and sees Wendy's stuff all the time. There are people, you know, several times a week, you'll see people commenting about what's going on in Monument Beach, what's Verizon up to. I'm having a problem with my Comcast. What's going on here with the, you know, my FWA. And so, yeah, people are definitely aware. And I think part of our work has awakened some interest in it. I just sent out, by the way, a copy of the article from the Enterprise to everybody.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Moving along, it's 9:08 and Anne Marie is leaving at 9:30. So I think we are almost done here. The next is in terms of poll data requests to utilities in the FCC. I think that is also premature. The FCC comment letter is going to be up on the agenda for next Tuesday, the 6th, I believe. So I'll be in the room to in case they have any questions about that, and we can move forward from there.
And Bob, we're starting that meeting early at 6:30 for that reason, so we can get this letter discussed and approved.
Oh, you know, God bless.
And the recommendation. So that meeting traditionally starts at 7, but we do have a hard stop that evening at 8:30. So right. Mary Jane has moved the meeting to 6:30.
Okay, well, I'll be in the room to field comments on that. I don't think there are going to be many, but again, it basically is a lot of the details, and for anybody who wants to put anything up on a poll, which at some point might include some entity in the town of Bourne. So anyway, okay, and the last item is a point of contact for the New Bridge Fiber. Somebody mentioned that they had an in that we might be able to get directly to the Corps of Engineers. Was that you, Brian?
I had an emergency passport appointment, so I had some contact with Marky's office a few times, and they said they can track down the Corps of Engineers for you.
Oh, good. Did you get your passport?
Yes, they managed to get me an emergency slot in the impossible to get room, and to delete a space in between the C's in my name that had been there since the dawn of time, but got me rejected from one country. So, okay, yeah, Marky's, I was just going to look as well for that, and they want to hear more about speed testing.
Really? Okay. Boy, that was a wide-ranging call you had. Okay, good. Keep that in mind.
Smith introduced me to someone there at the same time I was getting the passport, and so I just had one grand time talking to Marky's office for a little bit about very technical problems. So.
Very good. Okay.
Right. When I was on the Telecommunications Committee, I do know that people I work with in the broadcasting business had contact with him directly, and his office was very responsive to issues that were facing broadcasters.
Marky's actually assigned one of their staffers to make the rounds to all the internet people in the state. That's his job.
Okay, cool. Well, if he wants to sit in on one of our meetings, send him the contact information and he can sign on.
Okay. Yeah, his other request was I introduced him to everybody he doesn't already know. And so just like, I can give you people's emails. That's fine.
Great. Okay, very good. Okay, moving forward, again, next meeting will be the same time next week. I will prepare the agenda that will look substantially the same. I'm going to put one item in to review the all of the links on the long email that we got back from the public access request to MBI. There will be more, the speed test data. They asked for extra time to try to assemble it all. I'm expecting to get that back. That will probably be a link of some sort with a large amount of speed test data. Again, we ought to review that carefully before we ask the select board to fund collecting more speed test data. Of course, the big item is that I have on my list of things to do is make the recommendations or the changes in the presentation and maybe at the front of the report in terms of streamlining it along the lines that John presented. And I will also contact Liz to talk about putting together a working group that's in place quickly to think about implementing the recommendations that are imminently to arrive from the Cape Cod Commission on Digital Equity.
Could I request that you also add as sort of a recurring item in our agenda for legislative contacts?
Okay.
Updates on those? I think
second that, because
it's good to get it on the record and have people see it.
Yeah, there'll probably be a lot of those in the next coming couple of months, given the comments on digital equity and BEAD and speed testing and all that. So it's probably going to be for the next 8 weeks a very recurring topic.
And I also send out our minutes to our legislative crowd, and when they see that we're doing that, they may decide to chip in more and may be a little more visible on this issue because they like to see their names in print too.
Yeah, I think generally, just any contacts we have with the legislators, I think they'll be probably appreciative and will give us comments back. I've gotten, a couple of verbal comments one time at it was actually a birthday lunch for a veteran in the neighborhood that Exaros's office looks over these things all the time. So.
Yes.
And he said, keep at it, keep up the good work, basically.
Yeah, we're best buddies now.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. I'll put together the agenda and I'll get it posted. And anything else that should be added to the agenda for next week, which is the kind of the drop dead before we submit the report and the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Hearing none. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Tony makes a motion and John seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Nobody opposed. Okay. Very good, folks. For Wendy and Tony, look for perhaps late weekend, maybe Sunday or a Monday. I'll have a kind of a redraft of the PowerPoint at least, and to look over streamlining this. And I'm going to park this longer presentation with all of these extra slides. I may actually leave them in and just hide them in the actual presentation and let the select board know that they're all there. And point out in the front that slides 2 through 7 or whatever, or 8 or 9 are hidden just in the interest of time. But please do read them over.
And if they did read them over and they want to discuss them a little bit more, you can just pull it up.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Okay, very good. Okay, folks. Talk to us all as a group next week. Thanks for the participation.
All right, very good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.